Hello folks, this is Matt Johnson from SRS. Going to talk to you today about benchmarking your build. What do I mean by that? I mean finding out what your build does in its current setup, being able to make a change and then seeing if it's improved or it's reduced its capabilities. Now how do you do that in Stowe? Unlike other MMOs, there's no such thing as a target dummy in Star Trek Online. And for many years people have used ISA, Infected Space Advanced, to gauge their DPS, which is fine. And there's a nice DPS league built around that, and the combat log parsers has resulted from that, which is an incredibly useful tool. However, it's not a brilliant benchmark. For the simple reason is you're doing it with other people, and those other people have got different team buffs. It's also got some pretty unpredictable NPCs in there. You could be flying past the gate and it will grab you in a tractor beam, and that can really screw up your run. The best one that I've found is Starbase 234, and that's what I want to talk to you today. Starbase 234 you can find in the beta quadrant in the Hatoria sector. You can see where that is. What I generally do to get there quickly is use the Transwarp beta quadrant Azure sector, and then press your map button and type in 234, and it will take you directly there if you double click on it. It's not very far from that point. You need to make sure that your difficulty setting is not too high. On Elite, this will blow you out of the sky. And Elite is a very good test, rather than DPS, of resilience. The photon torpedoes the Starbase will shoot out are incredibly hard hitting. Normal, it's going to be over too quick for anybody that's already at the point of DPS benchmarking. So I have it on advanced, and I think that's about right. And what I'm looking for is somewhere around about the 1 minute 30 mark to disable the Starbase. So make sure you're on the right difficulty, and then enter the system. You'll get a pop-up here, just say not now, we don't want to start it yet, because we're not interested in any of these other ships here. We're only interested in disabling the Starbase. Now if you just disable the Starbase and then immediately leave without killing the other ships, you can then rinse and repeat as often as you want. So that's really quite important. What I generally do is also make sure that my ship's exactly the same distance each time and in the same position. So benchmarking is always about repeatability, making sure that you repeat it as closely as you can on each run through. So I want to be around about 2 kilometers. Let's go 2 kilometers. There we go. It's close enough. 2.01. That removes any damage attenuation due to distance. Now in your skill settings, you probably, if you know a little bit about this, already selected long range targeting sensors. If you select these, that reduces the damage attenuation anyway, but to make sure that you're not getting any more damage attenuation, to make sure it's the same every time, make sure you're always at the right distance from it. Then it's a case of configuring your ship. I'm going to run with threatening stance on, because that will give me a bit of incoming healing. Probably get slightly higher results if I ran with it off, but I might also die. Make sure that your combat log is on. Okay, and then when you're ready, start your buff cycle. I usually stop mine briefly before it hits the rapid fire, and then actually start the simulation. So here we go. Wait till it gets close to that. Hail Starbase begin, and start firing at it. On the real-time parser you can see the actual results that I'm getting. ignore any of the other ships that are coming towards you. Make sure you keep your healing up. The reason I could use RSP so often is that I'm running a double ox to bat build on this ship. That should finish it off now with the attack pattern alpha and the rapid fire there. So 1 minute 28 seconds, 52,000 DPS. Now I'm going to fly away. As you're flying away, your DPS will drop down a little bit. What we could do then is go to our combat log parser, analyze the results, and look at the player combat analysis reports, and you can see a breakdown of each of your weapons. And as expected, the Terror Task Force, which is the best cannon or beam in the game, is at the top, followed by my Polaron. Keem sight pretty high up there, look, because there's so many hits with cannons. I'm getting a lot of Keem sight explosions. The Prolonged is also a good weapon. Dual heavy Polarons and dual heavy Tetrion cannons, blah blah blah. I'm getting a reasonable amount from my gravimetric photon torpedo, and that's not bad from that phasic harmonic turret there, because that's not even maxed out yet, I don't think. No, it's very rare, so I've got a bit of upgrading to do on that. This ship isn't finished yet, but that's not really the point. The point is now that I can exit this system, and I could then, for example, upgrade that turret all the way and re-engineer it to the mods that I want, run the system again and see what the difference is. So I can change any of these weapons or any of these consoles. I might, for example, think I don't need the reiterative, let's stick something in there that's going to give me a bit more weapon power. Or I might epic these consoles here, I might get rid of that armor and put something else in, and so on. But the important thing is to change one thing at a time. No point changing 4 or 5 things, running the test again, seeing that you've only got 1,000 DPS more or 1,000 DPS less, or maybe 10,000 more, 10,000 less, because you don't know what was responsible for it. Because not all of these have got direct damage. They are passives, which, for example, like this one gives you extra weapon power. It also works in conjunction with the torpedo to give me an extra 3% crit chance. So always change one thing at a time. Make a note of what that is actually giving you in terms of set bonuses, passives, and so on. Run the test again a couple of times maybe, just to make sure that you haven't screwed anything up, and check your results. And then you'll end up with a series of results like this, and you can see that I've got 51. I don't know what happened to that one. Oh, that's a different ship. Yeah, 52, 48, and 48. So around about 48 to 50. So there's some variation depending on what you're doing. The way the randomness of the game works, the RNG, random number generator, will give you variation. So that's basically what I use for a system, for a target dummy, basically, to check your build. And I hope you find it useful. You should be able to aim for about a 1 minute 30. Anything less than 2 minutes is doing well. If you can get down to a minute, you're going to be doing really well. I've got one ship that can do it in about a minute, and that's passing around 90,000 DPS. However, it's pretty fragile, and quite often I get blown up, whereas this ship's a lot tougher, but not quite as ferocious, shall we say. And that is Starbase 234 benchmarking from SRS. Hope you find that useful. Like and subscribe if you did, and why not join our fleet? Find us at www.srs-fleet.net. Live long and prosper.